Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Weapons Hot Mission Briefs here on the National Sports Streaming Show, formerly known as the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. I'm your host, CJ the Painkiller D. Simone, doing a little bit of a short show for you tonight. Haven't done a show in the past couple weeks, obviously, because one of my jobs, one of the two jobs that I have, one of them is a pharmacy technician. So we had a lot of what we call pharmacy regulatory review, all kinds of boring stuff, which I basically will not bore you guys with because I know you guys are listening to this show to basically look at some football, talk about some football. So that's exactly what we're doing tonight. So I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. And you'll be able to see me on a couple of different platforms this evening, as I do have this all set up. One of the things I did want to show, the T-shirt that I'm currently wearing, 988. This is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Obviously, coming up on the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. Obviously, it's mental health is a very huge cause to me, a very important cause. So obviously, something that I take very seriously, and also that gives me the opportunity to be able to spread the word and get some people to pay attention to it, basically. All right. So without further ado, let's talk about the New York Jets and New York Jets draft as we briefly go through all of the draft picks. In the first round, the New York Jets actually traded out of the number 10 spot and ended up in number 11. They ended up selecting Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State. This was actually a guy who the Jets had their eye on, along with another offensive lineman. His name escapes me right now, but I'm very happy that the Jets ended up getting this pick, and they addressed, again, another need. It's not a sexy pick, but it's a pick that needed to be made. And Olu Fashanu definitely has the potential to be the New York Jets offensive tackle for the next decade, provided that they can work him into the system and he can get in there. And of course, he'll probably be behind Tyron Smith. And Tyron Smith is always good to be injured for at least 7-8 games. So I definitely expect Fashanu to definitely start. All right. Now, the New York Jets did not have a second round pick, obviously, due to the trade with Aaron Rodgers. But they did go ahead and they made a couple of trades in the third round. And the Jets actually traded to the top and they drafted Malachi Corley, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. Now, from everything that I've read, this is actually a really, really good pick. And Malachi Corley is a very good skill position player. And I think he will be a tremendous asset to the New York Jets wide receiving core. And obviously a great complement to a core that consists of Garrett Wilson and now the newly signed Mike Williams in the offseason. So it'll be very interesting to see how they work this all in. Now, in the fourth round, New York Jets selected Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin, with pick number 134. The New York Jets also had a few fourth-round picks. I think they had a total of 3. And they went ahead and they traded back and they were able to get a few other picks, I believe. Also some picks for next year as well. In the fifth round, the New York Jets selected Florida State University quarterback Jordan Travis with pick 171. Now, here's what I like about this pick. What I like especially about this pick is the fact that we now have a rookie quarterback that will actually get to sit and actually get to learn the NFL game, because we're not throwing him into the deep end of the pool and saying, okay, kid, time for you to swim and figure it out yourself. So this is a good pick, and especially because of the fact that you're going to have Tyrod Taylor back there. You're going to have a healthy Aaron Rodgers back there. It's going to have a wealth of NFL knowledge, especially at the quarterback position, to be able to learn from and to be able to absorb. And the best part about it is this kid will not have to see the field at all during the regular season. And that is a huge, huge, huge deal. That's something that we need. Hopefully, we can start learning how to develop quarterbacks the right way here in Forum Park. All right. So, in the fifth round, the New York Jets had another pick here. They went ahead and they also selected another running back, Isaiah Davis, out of South Dakota State. More of a project, a more developmental player, but from some of the things that I've read, I haven't read a great deal of information on him, but the general consensus is this was a solid pick and also a solid depth move for the New York Jets. Now, in the also for another fifth round pick, the New York Jets selected Quantez Stiggers, defensive back from the Toronto Argonauts, coming from the CFL. So, which is good. So we have somebody over here who's cut his teeth on live ball, and again, we'll see how he fits in the system. As I'm sure Robert Saleh will be very, very interested in injecting him into the lineup at this point. And then, of course, the New York Jets picked the very last player in the draft. Pick number 257, round 7, Jalen Key, defensive back out of Alabama, and otherwise known as Mr. Irrelevant. So, Mr. Key had a little bit of fun with this, saying that he's using that as fuel to be able to come into training camp and to go out there and to perform and to show that he actually belongs in the NFL, which is a good thing. I hope for his sake that he does. And that's pretty much all I could say about it, to be honest with you. I don't have a tremendous amount to really comment about the draft. I'm going to be honest with you. Because I think that Joe Douglas drafted for need, didn't get the sexy picks, but also got some picks in some very interesting spots in which you can fill potential holes that we have had. Now, at the running back position, a lot of people seem to think that Breece Hall is going to get traded, and I don't think so. I think that what the Jets have done, especially with these two draft picks, is now, and especially for the undrafted, I haven't even gone to the undrafted free agents, where I'm sure that Joe Douglas probably signed like 19,000 of them. So, and again, I'm being facetious with the number, but nevertheless, Joe Douglas did not go out there specifically to go get the shiny new toy. Joe Douglas went out there to get positions of depth, positions of need for this upcoming season and for seasons in the future. And he's continuing to fortify and build this youthful core in which, excuse me, you can go ahead and you can get a good you go ahead and you can get another good skill position player. You can get some depth in there, and you'll be able to build some pieces. It allows you to not have to go into free agency and have to go and hitch your wagon to a ton of free agents because of the fact that they just, I guess what I'm trying to say is this. A team that's built in free agency has a very short shelf life. A team that's built strategically in free agency, but primarily through the draft, in my opinion, has a significantly longer shelf life. Two words you guys hear me say all the time on the show, right? Competitive sustainability. You don't just want to be good for this year. You want to be good for this year and the next 5 years going down the road. And I think that Joe Douglas is finally at the point where he wants to go ahead and he wants to make sure that that's exactly what happens here. So, that being said, Joe Douglas didn't necessarily get the sexy picks. Joe Douglas got picks of need, players that he feel like are going to be a good match for this system and are going to be able to come in and are going to be able to contribute in some way, shape, or form. Now, I know that there were a lot of Jet fans who were really upset with the fact that the New York Jets did not go and select Brock Bowers. Okay. they did not make a trade to try and get up into the second round. Oh, and by the way, the New York Rangers just took the lead on the Washington Capitals 3-2 in the third period with 14:59 to go in the third period. So I know you guys are probably like, why is CJ looking down or looking to the side? And that's because I've got ESPN Gamecast on, keeping an eye on the New York Rangers versus Washington Capitals. So obviously, as stuff comes on, I'll brief you guys a little bit on it. So now, again, one of the things what I like about what Joe Douglas is building, and basically he's got no choice. He really has to. He wants to build depth at the key positions like the offensive line. The offensive line, which has been criminally neglected, obviously didn't do much last offseason. It was like they went and they signed Aaron Rodgers and they really didn't do much else, or much else worth noting. Where even though, yes, they did bring in Allen Lazard, they did bring in Randall Cobb, they brought in a couple of other players, but really not a lot was done to address the offensive line. So, and then we saw that the offensive line itself ended up becoming a giant problem. 13 different combinations starting over a 17-game period. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Zach Wilson has to take the helm. And then, of course, we go through the quarterback carousel between Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle, who should never be allowed to suit up for another NFL team ever again. So that being said, now the Jets have pretty much pushed their chips into the middle. And they pushed their chips into the middle of the table. They are all in for this year. They went and they also drafted some key pieces, in my opinion, even though they're developmental pieces. But Joe Douglas feels like that these kids can, in fact, come in here and be able to contribute and are going to be given an opportunity in training camp to compete for a roster spot. So there you go. Now, I know that a lot of Jet fans are upset. Jet fans are upset because we didn't draft Brock Bowers. Jet fans are also upset that they didn't make a trade to go get Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay? There are even some Jets fans that were upset about not trying to get a Michael Penix Jr. or a Bo Nix. All right? I'm not going to tell you guys what I think you should be upset about or what you shouldn't be upset about. Because the same way I don't want anybody telling me how to be a fan, I'm not going to tell you guys how to be a fan. But for those that are really getting upset about it, I think you need to chill out a little bit. And I'm not saying it to be an asshole. I'm actually saying it to be truthful. Because if you go and take a step back, take your emotions out of it, and take a look fundamentally at what Joe Douglas is trying to build. He's trying to put the best possible team around Aaron Rodgers for one shot at a Lombardi trophy. Because let's face it, if the Jets don't make the playoffs and have a good run, possibly maybe an AFC Championship appearance, possibly a Super Bowl appearance, dare I even say the words, okay? This entire coaching staff, this entire regime is getting fired. So pretty much everybody who's already been drafted, everybody who's already been signed or whatever, this is all going to be a fucking moot point. Okay? So for me, taking a look at it from that perspective, knowing that his ass is on the line, that Robert Saleh knows that his ass is on the line, that Aaron Rodgers wants to make up for the fuck-ups from last year because he feels like it's on him, because he feels like that if he was healthy and he didn't get hurt, the New York Jets season last year would have taken a different trajectory. He could be right. He also could be wrong. But we'll never know because we could sit here and we could speculate. And sure, it's fun to be able to debate it and to bring apart different case and points. But that's not going to change 7 and 10. All right. And what have the Jets finished for the last 2 years? 7 and 10. So you need to start winning more football games. You need to be able to start putting together something offensively which can give this defense some help. The New York Jets on the defensive side of the ball, probably one of the most stout units in the NFL. This defensive unit is gonna again be top 10. Dare I say top 5 in the NFL. You put a competent offense on the field with this defense, this is a playoff team. No questions asked. Okay? But the problem is that we as Jet fans, we get so attached to the disaster where we're constantly just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because so many years we have gone and put all of our eggs into this one fucking basket. And it's like, yeah, this is the year. Everything's going to come together. And then one fucking egg breaks. And then the entire basket shatters into 1,000 pieces. And then by week 3, fans are calling up New York sports radio, going on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck they're calling it this week, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. Pick your social media platform. And pissing and moaning that Joe Douglas needs to be fired, Robert Saleh needs to be fired, Woody Johnson needs to go kill himself, and etc. And they need to burn MetLife to the ground. All right, so go pick your poison. All right. We kind of need to rein it in a little bit, okay? Because here's the thing. We knew from the end of last year and from the press conference that pretty much everybody in the New York Jets organization was being put on notice. That this year, we better make a move. We better make the fucking playoffs. We better have a deep run. We better have a decent run. Or pretty much at the end of the year, everybody's getting fucking fired. So the way I look at it is like this. Okay. This is what the Jets are trying to do. They're trying to build this winner. They're trying to get everything good. They're trying to give Aaron Rodgers as much protection as possible. They're trying to get skill position players who can get open and get separation. Granted, I know a lot of people are talking about, well, Mike Williams, he's hurt, and how much is he going to contribute? And then it's all going to fall on Garrett Wilson. And then, even though you got Jason Brownlee and you got Xavier Gibson, Allen Lazard was trash last year. Yeah, you're right. Allen Lazard was trash last year. Randall Cobb was trash last year as well. But here's the thing. Look who the fuck they had throwing him the ball. Garrett Wilson still had a 1,000-yard receiving season with basically bums throwing him the ball. This season, he's going to have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. So there's a part of me that feels a lot more comfortable with Aaron Rodgers at the helm of this offense than anybody else. But the thing is that we can't have Aaron Rodgers fucking running for his life. So the offensive line needs to play the way the offensive line is capable of playing. You need to be, if this offensive line is fucking 16th in the league out of 32 teams, if you're fucking right at the midway point, do you realize that this is a playoff team? There's 10, 11 wins right off the bat that you could almost pencil in, that you could make arguments for beating this team or beating that team or beating the other team. So just wait till May when the schedule comes out. So as far as I'm concerned, you've already done everything that you can. The draft is already done. You got your undrafted free agents. Once you have your mini camps, and then once we start rolling into training camp and we start to see guys perform, we start to see people getting loose. We're out of the t-shirt and shorts Olympics. They're putting pads on. They're starting to play. Then you'll start to see a little bit of a clearer picture as to what's going on. But for me, I'm cautiously optimistic. I definitely think that this defense is good enough to win a championship. The only problem is that we need an offense, maybe not necessarily to match what the defense can do, but at least be competent. Because if you have a competent offense that can go and can put points on the board, where you're actually giving your defense leads, and they don't have to play from behind, where you're actually you're actually playing them with a lead, and they just have to basically shut them down. You put your defense in a much better position to be successful. But when your defense is on the field for over 70% of the game, you're not going to be successful. And if you go and take a look at the defensive snaps versus the offensive snaps last year, just like the year before, Your defense played anywhere between 72 to 78%. It's unacceptable. Am I saying you need to be 50-50? No. 60-40 could be acceptable. Okay, maybe even 55-45. But there also needs to be some times where your defense can take a break a little bit because your offense is basically clicking and you're beating people by 40. So for me, as a Jets fan, for a long-time Jets fan, I just want to see competent football being played. Score some points. Okay. Don't be reliant upon your defense to bail you out of game after game after game after game. Because you know what? Last year, Jets got off to a great start. 4-3. Right after the Chargers game, the wheels came off the wagon. And that's when the shit hit the fan. And that's when the bottom fell out. And then the Jets looked like a complete clusterfuck of a team going down the stretch. Okay. So from where I sit, again, as a Jets fan, I want to see competent football being played on the offensive side of the ball because that's really where the Jets' biggest deficiency is. Defense, you put this defense on any fucking team in the NFL, and they are a Super Bowl caliber team. I mean, if you were to put this defense with the Houston Texans offense, this is a fucking Super Bowl team. You put this defense with the Kansas City offense, fucking Super Bowl team. The list goes on and on. All right. But what we need now as Jet fans and what we need now for the New York Jets as an organization is to be offensively competent. Right now, that's something that we're not. And because of the fact we're not offensively competent, which is the reason why there's so many question marks going into this season. Not really on the defensive side of the ball, more on the offensive side of the ball. And they all start and end with the offensive line. So if your offensive line can play up to the standard, play up to a competitive and serviceable standard in which your quarterback is not getting his ass kicked every fucking play, this New York Jets team can, in fact, do some damage next year, no matter who they play. And I'm very confident in that. So the only thing that I want to see is I want to see offensive consistency. I want to see a full 60-minute game. What this offense is going to look like with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. That's what I want to see. I want to see him be able to play Nate Hackett's offense the way that it's supposed to be played. So this is what I'm looking at. So for me as a fan, this is what I want to see. Now, everyone's going to have their different opinions on the draft. Whether they think the draft was good, whether they think the draft was bad, whether they think the draft was mediocre, whether they felt like they reached on this player or that player or the other player. Everyone's going to have their opinion. For me, from where I sit, I walked away from looking at the New York Jets draft class this season and not really having much to complain about at all, if anything. So the only complaint that I have is I would have liked them to draft another offensive lineman, but Oli Fashanu, I cannot wait to watch this kid play in green and white. I really can't. So now, with that being said, this is where I'm going to wrap it up. My final thoughts to tonight are, now that the draft is over, you're going to have plenty of weeks to dissect every single draft pick. You're going to have plenty of weeks to dissect every undrafted free agent that the Jets have brought in from after the draft. There's going to be multiple players coming and going. John Franklin Myers ended up getting traded to the Denver Broncos, in which the Broncos turned around, signed him to a 2-year deal to lock him up long-term. So this is a strategic move. It helps the Jets with cap space, as well as being able to give them more draft capital, in which they took advantage of. So let's see where it goes. See where it goes. Okay. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of Weapons Hot Mission Briefs here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. now known as the National Sports Streaming Network. I'm sure I'll probably be corrected with the name again. Mac, if you're watching, you really need to let me know what it should be calling us. I personally think you guys should just call it NPSN, National Professional Sports Network. So, but not up to me. Anyhow, Mac and Linda, thank you guys so much for having my show on this evening. Thank you, the fan, for tuning in. And please let me know in your comments. Like and subscribe. Follow me on YouTube. Follow the show on Facebook. Download the Roku app. You can watch us along with a bunch of other shows on Northeast Streaming Sports. Just search up Northeast Streaming Sports. You'll be able to catch up our entire lineup there. Give it a shot. Got some quality shows, quality hosts from a quality network. And I'm very thankful and very blessed to be a part of it. So with that, my name is CJ, the Painkiller D. Simone, and I'm signing off for this evening. We'll see you guys when we see you guys. Peace, love, go Jets. Please be good to one another. And don't forget, May 1st, the start of Mental Health Awareness Month. Be good to each other.